Hi, Raj.
Hi, Kartik. Hi, Krishna.
Hi, Krishna.
Hi, Raj. Hi, Kartik.
Awesome. Awesome. Wonderful. Wonderful.
I think there's a
Morning.
Yep. So I'll start. Thank you. Thank you all. Last live webinar, we covered that. There is some echo, right? Maybe you can mute Raj and Krishna. Yep. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. So yeah, like last live webinar, we had a very interesting one where we discussed more on the frameworks that can be exploited and explored when it comes to ERPs, because this is what we are looking at from the ERP automation suite on the ERP test automation. We are very delighted, like we have with us one very experienced and profound person, like who has a lot of exposure around this implementation approach along the with the testing. Krishna Chekuri, like he has been there in US and has been holding a lot of positions prior to joining us when it comes to this test automation implementation. Thanks, Krishna. Thanks, Raj. I'll just quickly start before we can get into the giving introductions as quickly about Silotech, the company. So we are 5-year old, but we are very much technology driven transformation for enterprises. That's what we deliver. Based out of US, have an offshore center in India as well as Japan and Kenya. That's how we serve multi countries across the globe. Digital transformation, that's what we talk about. Level 3 certified on the CMMI, ISO certified on 27001 to 2013, as well as 9001 2015. That's what is very critical for us. You can see a lot of interesting things that we do across the industry, explicitly on the manufacturing and the heavy engineering side of it, as well as the finance side. Digital transformation, we talk a lot about Industry 4.0. Test automation, this particular webinar is about. AP automation, we will be doing more webinars around the AP automation, how and why and this thing. And data sciences, which is inevitable as on date with the data around, in and around every person, every entity, every machine. So data sciences, enterprise integration is very critical for every organization which is into this into its journey of digital transformation. So we have multiple platforms which more into the AI and ML base, which we'll be touch basing. So yeah, interestingly, that's about Silotech. Let's get to the topic, test automation. So as I was talking about Krishna Chekuri, he has been a project manager, a very critical role when it comes to this implementation that we talk about, because it's important to understand what is happening manually versus when you automate it, how to fragment it, how to put it in a right aspect, and then the important part is you have to play along with the change management, and that's where I'll say the scope creeps all come in, and it becomes you lose your hands on the project if you don't handle it properly. So the project management approach of towards implementation is very critical. So that's what we're going to be talking, which we're going to be touch basing, because this is more from the ERP standpoint that we're talking. So what happens is the processes, it's not testing the product, it's more of like checking out your processes, business processes, how they are aligned with the into the product, how they are mapped. So it can be one application, multiple platforms, a lot of integrations, the performance, everything comes into play, right? So that's something that we're talking today. So as Raj Suddamalla, he has been into the technology and has been very innovative when it comes to adopting new technology and new ways and means of automating, because automation as on date, it's all technology driven. And as I say, like anything that is repetitive should be automated. It's nowhere like that. Those words are gone or could be, like I'll say, like it should be automated, because we are as a man, as a person, as a responsibility, we are meant for more mature tasks and activities, right? So we will be talking something on the approach side. We will be covering the methodology, that is ideal one. The implementation that again Krishna will be taking us through, and the engagement, big and small, how exactly it works out, because it can be fast, and it can be very easy, as long as like you have a better engagement, better services tagged around, because it's not just the implementation. The important critical part comes in when you are maintaining the particular built test suits. And I'll say I'm more interested when it comes to regression side of it, because that's where I can see, as a consultant, as a functional consultant, I can see the process happening, and I'm happy. I'm confident that my processes are very, very mature, because as a bot, it is able to execute it end to end, right? So this is again, as I said, I'll talk about, as I always say, testing is your organization's responsibility, and it's very essential that that you take care of it and you own it, because you never know, a bad day can happen any time, and a bad day can happen because of multiple entities. It can be within your control, or which could be without your maybe not in your control. So as I say, the use case is more around the business processes only. It can be the order to cash, it can be procure to pay, more on the ERP side of it. Irrespective of the ERP, it can be any, I'll say, like because if you are an entity, all these processes are there, which are ideally either happening manually or through an ERP, right? Then they are integrated. Say you have things coming from Salesforce or the CRM, or you are something coming from the PCF, getting into the ERP, the orders, the delivery timelines, then it gets into the deliveries, then it gets into, like, if it's in the warehouse, from there you are shipping, or else you are getting into the manufacturing, or maybe some sub-assemblies you're subcontracting. A lot of different combinations come into play, a lot of complexity comes in. And this thing, if I say so many complexities, it ideally should not be tested manually. It should be ideally done. There is always a scope that there could be some error that we miss to capture, and so that's where I say, like, it should be automated, right? So coming back to the Infor part of it, I'll say, like, it's a sweet spot for me, to be very frank. I love it. I have been with Infor for almost 15 years, been the consultant on, as well as on the users, as well as on the end user side as well. So this particular automation that we have built, a lot of scripts, we have invested a lot of time across and built in based on our implementation, as well as our support expertise that we have brought in, where a lot of, like, say in finance, 254 scripts is almost covering the entire finance of it. Procurement, manufacturing, sales, I'll say, like, most of the critical scenarios are built around these scripts. That's how I look at, right? Something on the EAM also, like, we have a very good expertise on the EAM, work management, the material management, procurement side of it. EAM is more into the maintenance side of it, so asset acquisition, operations, material management, right? So that way, what happens is, this is the expertise that we bring in. Now what happens is, these standard scripts, if you need to adopt, I just need to tweak it to the extent that, like, because when it comes to ERP, the ideal and what you are looking for is more of outcome based or output based. That's where we compare. As a functional guy, I run a process and I'm expecting an outcome, and if it matches that outcome, I said this is pass, right? I go to the next step, again there is an outcome that I'm expecting. If it comes, it's a pass. So that's how I test it, and I expect an automation also to achieve that particular part. So that's how we bring in this part of it. So I'll say, like, when it comes to approach, it has to be Krishna and Raj. Please take over.
Yeah, one quick thing, like, I would like to add, Kartik, is basically, guys, I think thanks for great response. But if you have any questions, you can post on the on the message chat. We'll be happy to come on to the chats, and we'll be watching the chat, and but we will definitely answer all the questions, whatever you actually put in. Appreciate for all the response that whatever I'm getting it now. Thank you. Yeah. One more thing, just to add, Kartik, what you mentioned. First is initially, we kind of started with the test automation. And when we started the test automation, we have started, the main thing is kind of developing the frameworks, utilities, and accelerators that can work with any web application and all those things. So first we kind of took care of that, make sure framework has everything, for a speed up approach of when the client comes in, where we can have it. For example, whatever the reason, why we are actually concentrating more on Infor, yes, from Silotic perspective, functional consultant like Kartik, and we have a lot of other experts in each and every module, which we have a test functional experts actually, and where we can try to work and make sure the coverage and everything is ready. So now by using our frameworks and our accelerators and utilities, Infor LN, if you took that Infor LN, probably took around 2 months, Krishna, 2.5 months or so, with all the modules and everything. The reason why we were actually able to build that fast is because of all the accelerators, everything, whatever we have it. And we have done it something for PEG applications, web applications, and tomorrow, if it's something we are actually working on M3, Sightline, and all those things also, which we are actually working on. And we can make it much more faster based on the customer need and requirements with a much more accelerated way. Yeah. Thank you, Krishna. I'll be on mute. Probably, I think, if you want to go ahead and approach and all those things, please go ahead, Krishna.
Okay. Hi. Looks like now I'm not muted. Okay. You hear me? Okay. Yeah. Are you able to hear me? Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Kartik. Yeah. So as Kartik has mentioned and Raj added on to that, the approach, the typical approach that we start off with is, although, in the previous slides, we have showcased, what we have developed, right? Using the framework that Raj has mentioned, we have developed out of the box test cases, automation. We have automated that for when you take Infor, right? Be it EM or LN. But then when the approach comes into play, each client, each customer, their application, their technology landscape, application landscape is very different. So when we go in, first we go through the system study and do a POC, and then come up with what all things that we need to do, whether it's LN, whether it's a custom application, how much of the modules have been customized. So all that features into comes into play, where we come up with an outcome base. Okay, for all the customizations, we would need this much of effort, on top of what we have, the access and the artifacts that we say, right? The test artifacts that we have that covers the out of the box, scenarios, be it procure to pay or order to cash, as Kartik was mentioning. I mean, these are business critical scenarios, right? We cover that, and then on top of that, what it takes to give us the full coverage of the regression suite, because that is where it is critical, because because the most important thing is the time to market. So we want to, why regression testing and why automation is done, because to reduce the time to market, so that we can release quickly and more frequently, and then at the end of the day, we don't have to have issues or production bugs, critical bugs that is going to stop us for going forward. Okay, so we have done that. POC usually takes about a week, and then the implementation, as we say, is 6 to 10 weeks. At least on the high level, it might take longer based on the landscape, because landscape is something that we don't know for sure what is the coverage required and what is the extent of it, in order to do the whole coverage. So we take the approach of iterative. So we come in, first do the first thing is when we do the kickoff and do the assessment of the system by doing the system study, working with the client, the business users, business analysts, and then getting the scenarios, getting how much of the applications, the modules that you have, how much percentage are out of the box and how much of it is customized, right? And then adding to that other interfaces that you have, integrations that you have. Raj can add, we have experienced a lot of just ERP, but it has a lot of interfaces, integrations. If you want to add something to that, where the complexity comes into play and how we can solve that, right? So yeah, if you want to add, Raj, you can add that. But,
yeah, absolutely. That's where it's a combination of our ERP knowledge and also the test automation framework, whatever we came up, that's where it comes into, and where we can do almost like a plug and play kind of things. Some of the customers requires this module, and also kind of role based and all those things. That's all can be and very well be taken care. And some of them can be taken care without even touching the code, just by doing with the data providers, just having some entries into the data. That's kind of robust, how we actually coming up with our framework. Just by looking at the data sheet, we can even completely cover where our coverage is, are we missing anything, and that kind of things. And apart from that, that, right, the reports, all the reports, whatever we have it, that has now we are actually integrating with the AI ML with the dashboards, where we can try to get some predictions also. Yeah, we run this one now, and what's going to be the next week's, if I run it this module next week, order to cash, there are some changes. What can be my percentage? The management can know that exactly what they're actually anticipating at that point of time. So these are all the changes which we are actually trying to get onto the reporting tools and everything. Yep.
Yeah. Thanks. And yeah.
I just want to add quickly that based on our experiences that we have noticed is when we are doing this process of end-to-end, in the process of implementation, the stakeholders, there are multiple stakeholders. It's not just the guys who are implementing. Even on the client side, see what happens is, end of it, the system that we are trying to automate has to be very, very stable. That's where the automation comes in, because only a stable system, that's where we can do a repetitive work which can be automated again. And the critical part of this automation is the testing. How to test this test automation. Now, when you need to test it on your environment, what we need is, we need your expertise, client expertise, because the data, the identification of the data, as well as your customization, how it behaves, what are the, again, as I go back to the part that is outcome based or output based, that you can better evaluate. So when we're preparing the data, that's where we do a lot of exercises. Our ERP expertise, we bring in our test suite, technical expertise, and sit with you and build those scenarios, data scenarios for testing, so that we understand. We do multiple rounds of it before we say yeah, now it's mature. Let's go to the, let's push it into the test instance, right? So yeah. Yeah, Krishna.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what absolutely you're right, Kartik. Yeah, and as Raj said, right, I mean that's where the framework what we have built, it's basically POM based hybrid framework, which is very flexible. So very flexible in the regression and function testing. So would kind of helped us in getting there quickly. So when we get when we do the system study and get the landscape, what all things that needs to be tested, and where we need to modify or add new scripts, that helps a lot. And adding to that, we can have tagging, basically, we have test case tagging, and then Raj, mentioned a great point of, a prediction, and where we can come back and say, okay, we're looking at the trends. When you are executing, you don't once. We execute multiple times, as needed. And then, while you are doing minor or major releases, basically we need to find out the fault isolation. Okay, so the fault isolation is found in our tools. So looking at our history, and then and then reducing the basically resolution time. Mean time to resolve anything. It will be quicker, because the time takes to fail fast approach that we do when you are doing the automation regression. You basically the basic idea is to address or isolate or identify issues as early as possible, so that you have time to the development team to address those and resolve. So thereby you are more reliable. So the reliability is there, and then you have less time to more time to fix issues than a firefighting mode when you are close to production or when you are doing UAT. So and then you'll have a smaller backlog. So how we are going to do all this, right? Basically, we have an implementation approach that we take, where we do the proper assessment. We talked about this. I don't want to reiterate again in the interest of time. And then where you get work with collaboratively with the client, users, business team. Then you provision based on what skill set we need, whether we are going to use our framework. It not necessarily all the time we are going to use our hybrid framework. We might have to use other things, based on the application version that you have, or the integrations that you have, right? Raj, you can add one of our manufacturing example, or the finance customer example, if you want to, where we had.
Oh, sorry, I'm unmuted. I muted you. Yeah. So I think there was some echo issue or something like that. Yeah, exactly, Krishna. Means it's not just the ERP and all those things, which we actually took care. There are some external customizations, external party, where we need to call, and again, we are actually able to call that using APIs, web services, and then calling that the third-party systems, and where we are actually able to validate that itself. So the best part is we can, if there are some changes that been done to the third-party system, we can just tackle to only to that, and only that can be tested. So we don't need to go into the application. We can test that particular API, and because that can be underneath one of the source things what we have. So.
Yep. That's great. Yeah. Yes, Kartik.
Yeah. So interesting part comes in. See, the thing is, test automation is more of a journey. It's not just an implementation. As a part of it, we go along with the client hand in hand. So if you just look at the multiple stages over there, we have defined those entry and exit criteria, as well as there are a lot of artifacts that come in which actually transform and become, I'll select one of the core. I can hear some echo, Raj. So these are the artifacts that come out as a part of. It can be that assessment part, or the provisioning, or how exactly we are building the strategies, we are building the scenarios, we are building the plans. Because end of it, if you look at the plan, it looks like, hey, I know everything, because all those steps, that's what I have been performing, right? But having said that, when you actually implement it, there are more ways, better ways of looking at it. So, and the part I believe Raj mentioned is we're using very I'll say like very open source technologies like Selenium. I'll say like for me 10.4 onwards on the LN Infor side, it's all web based, and we were very successful in building all those scripts using Selenium, which is very much available open source, right? So having said that, there's not much of an investment that we need to do on that front of it. It's all about how mature is the process and how much confidence you want to attain by implementing this test automation suite. So the maturity of after the implementation gets into the key deliverables. If you look at the reports, the reusable test assets, because again, when it comes to maintenance part of it, it becomes very critical, because you cannot sit down and keep coding and keep developing. You just need to see how to reuse the existing assets, right? And that's one side of it. Second side of it, change management. It becomes a critical part of change management, because any change that is happening to the production, change identifies which all scripts should be executed, so that like the confidence is there that nothing breaks away. And the other aspect is like the way the cloud adoption is going on. A lot of ERPs are now moving into cloud. So what happens is you have a less say on the maintenance of the cloud, because it all belongs to the OEM or the cloud where you have hosted it. But when it comes to your processes, they still remain your processes. So having said that, there needs to be a mechanism in place through which you execute end-to-end processes and assure that like it's working. So it's not something ad hoc request that you need to run. You have to run it maybe like bi-monthly, or 2 times in a month, or 3 times in a month. So based on how frequently your this thing is changing, a change is happening in your this thing, right? And this part of it, I'll say, depending upon the implementation, the critical aspect that gets into is the engagement model, right? So engagement, yeah, Raj.
Before you go there, like I just want to add the one, like what you mentioned, especially cloud enablement and all those things, right? Like so now. For example, like a lot of Infor products, and like even for example other ERPs and everything is going into cloud. One best part is like at least you have a means from our perspective, we have all the regression scripts like from cloud perspective, because of like means there are no customizations, only the extensions are there. Like so that's where like where we had end-to-end regression scripts almost ready for all the cloud implementations. So that's where like the best part is like so for that the rollout will be much more faster, like because of all the built-in scripts, like whatever we have it with a great coverage and everything. Just want to mention that one, Kartik.
Yeah. The other thing I was mentioning, like, see, what happens is you just need, as one of the slides mentioned, that you need a right partner. So what happened is to this customer, when they approached and we met and we decided like let's go for test automation, because that's very much essential for them, because it's breaking every time they do some promotion, it breaks somewhere and they are having nightmares actually. So they said like our critical processes are around two aspects. We don't need to test all of them, just the procure to pay and the order to cash. I said, wow, it's very easy. I have everything ready. Now what happens is the trick part starts is they have a lot of customizations, which they only are aware of. Okay, so these customizations are around their items. These items are very there are some stock items, there are some repair items, there are some manufacture items, there are some sub-assemblies. So different items are there. Now the process in which each item flows differs, because even if it's an order to cash, I say like I have the scripts. Now the only way where I can add value to them is saying that like, listen, this is how it works. You just we need to plug in those gaps wherever it is for your items. So we eventually, what happened is, I thought like order to cash is a single scenario. We ended up with 12 scenarios, 12 end-to-end scenarios where it includes everything. And the interesting part here is these 12 scenarios, they differ from country to country. So these 12 for 4 different countries became 48 scenarios. So what I'm saying is, you just need to understand, like it's all about like how mature you want. Okay, now the thing is like if somewhere now, because these scenarios, even if on paper we say scenarios, but end of it, backend the components, the ERP components or the objects, they are the same objects which have been built to address or change the logic based on the item that is coming. This is for us. This becomes very critical where we are doing an outcome based. So maybe you want to check how the costing is changing, or maybe you want to check how the inventory is behaving, or you want to see like if for this item, if the warehouse quantity is not there, does it go out for sourcing to some supplier, or what kind of delivery times it's giving. So it can be any one of them. Yeah, Krishna, you are saying something.
So yeah, absolutely. Whatever you have mentioned, right? I mean, when we are doing, when it became 48 scenarios because of 4 countries, but at the end of it, it is the same process, right? Only the data, underlying data is the difference. So that's where our data-driven testing comes into play, and it has helped us. So I just wanted to add that technicality of it is how our framework fits into this kind of scenario. Basically you are required to test the same functionality multiple times with different set of input data based on the scenario. So all the static data is created and used as input for the test scripts, as we go. Basically, if you say US, you have this flow and the test data input comes from that, be it a JSON file or be it XML or be it Excel, right? And then the data creation for each execution doesn't have to be done manually also. So it can be done, it's automated so that, you just have the release fixed for this. You can execute for one country, for one setup, and you can go on execute for the other domain, other setup, just changing the data set. Maybe there is some tweaks, that has to be made, but then, it's manageable, especially for the manufacturing units who are other companies who have different plans, but, underlying the business process flow is almost, a lot of it is in common. It helps a lot. It reduces. That's where, we call it accelerators, for no reason. For this particular reason, we call them accelerators that we have. And we have done that using the common utilities for this, which are basically helping us to, address, this kind of issue quickly, rather, I would say. Yeah. Yeah. Just wanted to add that. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, ERP all revolves around the item and the data. That's a thumb rule actually about ERP. So yeah, we have some questions. Yep. So 10.4. Yes, because post which there was version that LN Infor was providing, it doesn't support Selenium. So so only 10.4 onwards we are using Selenium, and before that all the versions we use UFT. It's Micro Focus UFT. Yes, we even do the performance testing. One interesting thing that we have come across, not just in this stream, the other stream also, is like a lot of performance issues are being noticed when it comes to porting set upgrade that a lot of customers are doing. Yes, we have some expertise where we can always help you out in addressing those performance issues. I think we are good, Raj.
So I think, yeah, we have good response. I think questions. Yeah, feel free to ask it. I think our email addresses and everything, and please feel free to ask any questions or anything like that. I think this one we just want to get an awareness of how our approach is and how we are actually planning to tackle. There are a lot more sessions. Like I know you are all might be looking at. Okay, you guys are actually talking. Like what's actually kind of like show me kind of things, right? So we are planning to do it. When is that, Kartik? We have a demo session. So we are actually planning to do a demo. Like with all the regression scripts, like with the LN at least. Take LN. That includes like our CI/CD kind of things, continuous integration deployment kind of things, and also reporting and end-to-end approaches like for all these scripts like whatever we have. That's on 24th March at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So hope to see you guys. I think that will be much more fascinating. I think you don't need to listen to us too much. Like it's going to be mostly talk and a show me. It's all show me point. I think maybe there may be a lot more people will be coming in there at that point of time. Yeah. So anything that you guys want to add?
Oh, that's great,
Thank you.
Raj. Thank you for all the insights. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah,
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Krishna.
Thank you very
Thanks.
much. Thanks, Kartik. Thanks, Krishna.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.